Hey guys, what's going on? Thank you so much for watching today. Welcome to another Planet Zoo speed build. Today we are back in Mayberry Park. I know it is a fan favorite. I get asked all the time when we don't build in Mayberry Park for very long. People ask where it is and when it's coming back, and I love it too. So I'm very excited to be back in this project today. And as you might be able to tell by the thumbnail, we are going to be adding the aardvarks. Now, if you guys end up enjoying this video, please do leave a like down below. It really does help me out, and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future Planet Zoo content, because I have a few more videos coming out very, very soon. I've been hit by a bit of inspiration watching a couple other creators revisit old projects and jump in and delete and reinvent and redesign some things. I have decided to jump back into River Rock Zoo. Now, I have no guarantees that anything will actually come of it. However, I am having some fun kind of reorganizing and redesigning some things in that project, because if you are unfamiliar with it, it is my very first project in Planet Zoo. So I built it probably over about 2 years ago now. It was when I very first started YouTube. We only had a couple of the packs. I think we only had like the Arctic pack and maybe the South America pack. And that was about it. So I'm excited to go in and use some of the new pieces and everything. So keep your eyes peeled for that. However, I feel like I should probably talk about what we're doing in this video, yes? So as I mentioned, we are adding the aardvark, and this was actually a habitat that I designed because I needed a sample habitat for a species breakdown video that is up on the channel now. It is a video going over the aardvark in depth, some of its animations in the game, its zoopedia, and then habitat design and suggestions. So this habitat is actually modeled after a habitat that's at the San Diego Zoo. And at the San Diego Zoo, the habitat that I'm using is actually for the Tasmanian devil, but very similar setup to what the aardvark would need. So aardvarks are nocturnal. They're really not going to do much during the day, but they're excellent diggers, and they like to hide in their burrows or in their nice, quiet, dark spaces during the day. So this habitat is built with an outside portion, which is what we're working on now, and then an inside portion, but with a glass viewing area. So that way, even though the aardvarks are probably going to be sleeping the majority of the day if they're kept in this habitat, you'll still be able to see them in their little den burrow area. So likely this zoo is, like I said, not going to have them in a nocturnal house or anything like that. So you're really only going to see them be active maybe right when the zoo opens or as the zoo is going to close. But in my mind, Mayberry Park has this, what is turning out to be kind of the small mammal area. We have the prairie dogs and the meerkats and now the aardvarks. So likely some of these habitats are going to be switched around from time to time, and different species are going to be held in them. So I really wanted to create something that was going to work for the aardvarks, but also something that was not uber specialized where it was going to have to only be used for the aardvark. So as I mentioned, I'm modeling this after a Tasmanian devil habitat. There's a lot of other kind of smaller animals that would fit. The meerkats could live in here, the prairie dogs could live in here, stuff like that. So they would either move the animals around from time to time just to give them some enrichment, new smells, new sights, things like that, or it just depends on what animals they have in their collection at that time. So that's kind of where I was going based on that. I also don't like interiors whatsoever, and those of you that aren't new to the channel know how much I dread building inside things. And so the idea of building a complete nocturnal house where the aardvarks would likely be switched on their schedule, where they would be kept in the dark during the day and lit up in the nighttime so that they would be active when guests were viewing them, did not appeal to me whatsoever. I really don't like building indoors. So this was a good happy medium for me. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Like I said, needed a habitat for the species overview video that I did for them, and I felt like they would fit well in Mayberry Park Zoo because we already had all those little small mammal area kind of started. So right now we're working on a fence, which again is coming almost directly from the reference picture that I was using, and honestly just from memory. I have some footage, it's in a prior zoo vlog of walking through the San Diego Zoo, but I was really struggling here to figure out what light I wanted to use because in the reference picture every other panel has this kind of tower light in the middle of it. And in an effort for realism and also just to kind of push myself, I was gonna try to incorporate that somehow, but it really didn't end up working out. I couldn't find the right pieces, and so I just ended up leaving it out altogether. And I think it came out fine, but lighting is one of those things that just adds a little bit of detail and realism to your build. So it's something I think I need to get a little bit better at and adding to the builds. But we're gonna do this railing here. You can see that it has a bit of a slope to it where it slopes down towards the guests and then up away from them. A very common habitat design, kind of keeps the animals in the eye level of the guest, and wherever they go within the habitat, they're gonna be viewable by the guest kind of standing up on the path area. In terms of the internal part or the inside part of the habitat, we do keep it relatively plain. Aardvark habitats, when I was looking them up, really are kind of like hoofstock habitats. A lot of the ungulates and things like that really don't have a lot of stuff in their habitats, mostly because they're destructive. So aardvarks, being a burrowing species, are gonna dig a lot in the dirt, and so everything that I looked up really just had some very low-lying grasses and lots of dirt. But I do like to make pretty things, and I couldn't just leave it only dirt. So you can see me here sinking some rocks and then playing around with some tropical plants because that was what was in the reference picture. That's originally what I was trying to go with. But in the end, when I was kind of looking at the meerkat and the prairie dog habitat, I felt like it would be better to model them very similar to those habitats, just one in the interest of being in kind of the landscaping that the aardvark would be used to, but also two, it takes a lot of water and a lot of money to water really tropical plants like that and keep things really lush. So I end up trading out these really tropical, I don't even remember what they're called, like the little fern palm tree thingies. You can see them, I just delete them right now. And then moving over with some sticks and twigs and logs and grasses and a tree for some height, and giving the habitat some interest with some low-lying stuff. Now, I do end up putting two of the large burrow items, which are habitat enrichment items. Well, actually, technically, they're sleeping items, but two burrows in the habitats that the aardvarks, actually, to my surprise, could use because I end up moving the terrain a little bit and editing it where it kind of comes up over the back of the burrow a little bit more because I don't love how these habitats, how the burrows sit on top of the terrain so much. They're very much like an external structure on the surface of the soil, and I kind of wish they fit into like the side of a hill a little bit more or went more kind of straight down into the ground. Basically, I just wanted them to look a little bit more integrated, as if they were actually dug into the ground and not just kind of sitting on the surface. And at first, I really doubted with the hitboxes of the animals and just how Planet Zoo animals act all around. I really doubted that they were going to actually go in them, but they proved me wrong, so I was pleasantly surprised. However, they don't navigate up into the inside part of their habitat. And I probably could have messed around with it just a little bit to get them actually to go up in there, but I wasn't too bothered with it, so I just kind of left it. I went for aesthetics over functionality because it is a sandbox zoo, and so, like I said, it really didn't bother me that they didn't use it. And so they really only stay in the outside area of the habitat. One of the last things that I'm going to do here is use the little water trough and the new hose item to make it look like there is a hose in the habitat. An animal like this, if you hang the hose up high enough, they're really not going to bother it. So having a hose within the habitat itself is something that I could see totally happening. Aesthetically, it doesn't look fantastic, but realistically, it could definitely work. So there's the little hose next to the water trough, and because that is actually a water trough, like a habitat item, the keepers do walk over there and fill it up, which is really nice. So that is a functional thing for the habitat. Now, in the exterior parts of the habitat or the walls, really, I did place some of those ponytail palms and just other kind of tropical looking plants. This would be something where it would have some sort of irrigation up there that I imagine, like a drip system or something that would keep them watered, and just for pretty's sake, basically, for aesthetics, to make it look nice. I'm once again using these signs that are by Lowbury. I believe I'm saying it right. I always question myself because I'm terrible at pronunciation and I never want to get the name of another creator wrong, but they have uploaded these beautiful signs to the workshop, and I used them for the Japanese macaque habitat that we did in the last episode of Mayberry Park Zoo, and they're basically going to be the signs that I use going forward because I love them so much, and they're the perfect theme for this zoo, I feel. So we're gonna go ahead and keep using those going forward. The rest of the video is gonna be just me finishing up some very minor details. You can see I kind of went over to the meerkat habitat and started changing the color of the rocks. I originally was going with this kind of darker gray kind of color, but the more I looked at it, I really prefer the kind of more, what's the word, like weathered look of the lighter color. Envisioning, you know, this isn't a brand new zoo, so any faux rock that they would have implemented or installed would be kind of sun bleached or weathered in some capacity and wouldn't necessarily be that like dark, kind of more vibrant gray, I guess, that I was using. So I do prefer kind of the more weathered appearance, I guess. And then here you can see I'm just kind of stealing the building from the other habitats as well. If we're making this area kind of one whole little compound, I guess, is that what we want to call it? The compound reminds me of like a prison, so it's not a very positive word, but sure, compound. That way all the buildings kind of look alike, and you know, they probably would have been built, all at the same time. So just kind of keeping that theming going. And where I'm kind of headed in this little direction here is probably going to be more of a backstage area between this habitat and the Japan area, the Friendship Garden, the Japanese area that we worked on in the last couple episodes, because I've kind of backed them up to each other where it would kind of make sense to put a staff center right in the middle and have guests kind of walk all around. So I'm feeling that we'll probably have to do maybe an entire episode or maybe just a little bit of work each episode on a backstage area and kind of connecting those two areas together, because that is one thing that I am bad at, is I kind of build in like a sticker style, in the sense of I kind of just plop down habitats, and the inner workings and the details in between the habitats, I'm a little bad at putting those in, and normally I just kind of go for like planters. Like all my zoos just have foliage in between because I don't really know what else to do. But Mayberry Park is supposed to be a little bit more detailed, a little bit more thought put into stuff like that. So I'm gonna have to push myself and challenge myself to kind of fill in those blank areas. But that's pretty much it. We're going to jump into some end cinematics here, some B-roll, if you will, and check out our little aardvark habitat. You can see them kind of hanging out in there, just kind of standing around. Aardvarks don't really do very much, so they're not super exciting. But I'm really happy about how this habitat turned out. I love that back mud wall. It's probably my favorite part of the entire habitat. And those tree pieces, I don't think I've ever used them for anything other than a mud wall. Like, I don't actually use them as trees. They're just the mud wall pieces in my mind, and I know a lot of other creators feel that way as well. But yeah, you guys, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Content has been a little bit difficult for me to get out recently just because of my new job and how little time that I have. But I'm still here, still working on it, still enjoying it. So please leave all your comments and suggestions and feedback down below. If you made it this far, leave a like on the video, and I will talk at you guys in the next one. Bye!